A lot of secondary data used by marketers can actually come from internal sources to the organization. Business and marketing operations routinely collect a lot of information that can be used to answer a current marketing research question. Let's walk through a few examples of internal sources that generate data often relevant to marketing researchers. We'll talk about a CRM system that generates relevant data, payment systems, web analytics systems, ERP systems, and other routine marketing activities. This list isn't exhaustive, but it does illustrate the many ways that modern organizations generate relevant data for marketing research. Here's an example of a CRM dashboard. In particular, this dashboard comes from the popular software as a service platform Salesforce. This is their platform that they use for higher education. What you're seeing here is a recruiting dashboard that helps a marketer who's recruiting students to a higher education institution to let them know about how their various students from various locations, notice the cities here, are interested in their college, as well as how high-performing students, how the ACT students are interested in honors programs, how it corresponds to their GPA, and whether or not they participate in a campus tour. Payment systems are another example of a tool that is very common, that can be commonly used to generate relevant data to answer marketing research questions. In particular here, we see an example from the payment system called Revel, where we use iPads or some other small digital screen and have a cloud-based payment system platform. And what you see here is a general typical report where various establishments, so for example, you might imagine a coffee shop chain that has a series of different coffee shop locations. We're seeing reports about various gross sales, any discounts that are given. This type of information could be useful to answer marketing research questions related to sales performance of various territories. Web analytic platforms are another source of information that marketers may use to answer marketing research questions. What you're looking at here is data being pulled from the popular web analytic platform Adobe Analytics and being visualized using Microsoft's Power Business Intelligence data visualization platform. In this particular example, you can see in the bottom right-hand quadrant here, these various boxes represent the magnitude of revenue generated from a certain product. So this particular product ID number here represents roughly a third of all revenue. We can see here basic web metrics such as the number of unique visitors within the time period, where they're coming from, and what sort of keyword searches are generating particular page views. In this case, outdoor gear is most common. ERP systems are actually usually a suite of applications meant to track various transactions across an entire institution. And in fact, many of the previous examples I just gave you could all be thought of often as things that feed into an integrated ERP system. SAP might be one of the most common examples of a company that provides ERP solutions to organizations. And what we see here in this particular example is a invoicing system, a report coming from an invoicing system for a particular customer. And again, this type of information, knowing which customers are paying and how often they're paying and how discounts are being accrued and so on and so forth, could be relevant to answering a marketing research question. Of course, a variety of other routine marketing activities often generate relevant data that could be used for other analysis. For example, here we see a report that's generated from MailChimp. MailChimp is a popular email marketing platform that maybe you even used as part of an internship at some point. And what we see in this particular chart is over time, being on the x-axis here, we see the Modern Kitchen Cutlery email campaign having a typical click rate right around 9%. With an open rate floating around roughly 35%, and that's substantially beating the typical industry average benchmark of 17.35%. Another example of marketing information internally that could be useful to answer marketing research questions might be something from a social media platform. Many social media platforms that are designed to help serve businesses as well often come with their own internal analytics dashboards. Facebook Insights is one example here. And in this particular screenshot, what you're looking at is you're seeing a marketer generating a new audience for a targeted Facebook advertising campaign. And in this particular case, this person is creating an audience that slightly over-indexes in terms of household income compared to the overall Facebook population. You notice the light blue bars represent the typical overall Facebook population. You'll notice that the blue bar here representing this new audience being generated for this targeted Facebook campaign over indexes. Similarly, This group also over-indexes compared to the general Facebook population in terms of home ownership. These types of insights can also be used to understand how your Facebook pages are performing in terms of attracting and retaining your audience, and could be useful for a variety of marketing research questions. So one of the things that becomes immediately clear when we go through a few quick examples of internal secondary data sources is that these tend to be cheap, and they're easily accessible and offer highly detailed information about individual customers or segments of customers. That's definitely an advantage of why we like to use internal secondary data sources for marketing research. However, these do come with a number of limitations and often creates a situation where they only offer an incomplete picture of what we're trying to discover in terms of addressing a marketing research question. So first of all, the information that comes from internal secondary data sources tends to be very limited to the actual behaviors of a customer during actual purchases, or at least later in the purchase funnel. Transaction systems, of course, only capture actual customer behavior with respect to their actual purchase behaviors. So one of the problems here is a marketer usually wants to know actually what sort of behaviors customers or likely customers are going to do before and after purchase. And these types of routine data collection activities sometimes ignore or miss or don't offer a complete picture of these sort of activities. In addition, these sort of internal secondary data collection activities tend to focus on current customers and what they're actually doing. And of course, a marketer is often interested not just about current customers, but about potential customers or prospective customers or a given market segment. And these types of information gathering resources rarely capture this information in a systematic way. So that's a key limitation often of internal secondary data. There's also a scarcity of customer mindset information. If you go back and look at all the examples, it was very behavioral. So we know where people clicked, we know what they searched, we know when they actually purchased, but in none of the previous examples did we actually know what the customer's awareness level was for a variety of brands or products, what their interest, attitudes, or various psychographic or motivational states were towards a product, brand, service, or experience. These are things that marketers often want to know to tailor later marketing activities, and those are things that we rarely have direct insights about through internal secondary data collection activities. In addition, on one hand, in theory, this information should be easily accessible. In practice, oftentimes this type of internal secondary data is trapped in organizational silos, meaning that the social media team may have full control or access to the social media dashboards, but the brand manager may not have as quick and ready access to this information or information in the way that they want it. And finally, many organizations still struggle with these internal secondary data sources standing alone and not being integrated into a unified source of customer and prospective customer information. This limits the overarching insights that any given source could actually provide. With that said, there's a number of organizations that specialize in integrating data from disparate sources into a single source of truth that can be useful for marketing researchers. So according to IBM, we define data integration as the combination of technical and business processes used to combine data from disparate sources into meaningful and valuable information. The advantage here is, borrowing from like maybe an 80s business corporate boardroom word, is synergy. By taking disparate data sources and integrating them into a unified whole, the individual pieces build together to create a more unified insight that we don't have by looking at each individual piece. Let me give you a simple example of what we mean by the value of data integration. And we'll use an example of a grocery store chain to illustrate this. So imagine a grocery store chain like Kroger. You can go to Kroger.com and create a web account where you can log in, get access to coupons, store shopping lists, and so on and so forth. And that's useful to Kroger. Now they know what you're saving, what you're interested in. And of course, Kroger, like any other grocery store chain, will track product purchases. So shopping cart analysis is a very old school and classic form of marketing analysis where we can find which sort of products are correlated and correspond to one another with their purchase. And sometimes we use that information to pair those products together in the retail store space. We also use in-store promotion, sort of in-store couponing. You've probably gone to the grocery store and at the end a series of free coupons were spit out at the end after you received your receipt. Hopefully those coupons will be, well, at least from the perspective of the grocery store, those coupons will be redeemed later. So now they have a way of tracking a given a given shopping cart generating actually coming back at a later time and taking advantage of those coupons, so linking more than one shopping cart together. At-home promotions are also common for grocery stores. So inserts within newspapers or bulk mail being sent to addressable households. But all this information individually only provides a limited picture of what a particular individual is actually doing. It'd be much more useful to the marketer if we could sync web account behavior with shopping cart actual purchases, with their coupon redemption behavior, with their responses to in-home promotions. And the way to do that, of course, is through something like a loyalty card program. And with all of these, if a person has a loyalty card for Kroger, now the marketer can actually link individual purchases together into a longitudinal picture of what an individual is doing, how they're responding to coupons, in-store promotions, and web activities, offering a more comprehensive 360 view of what a person's actually doing. Even then, despite this being an advantageous form of data integration that allows the marketer to do things that it normally couldn't do by keeping these pieces of internal secondary data separate, we're still missing other pieces of relevant information. For example, the marketer might want to know what's the household income of this particular individual. What is their psychographic profile? Are they a kayaker? Are they a tailgater? Are they somebody who has interests in political activities? How do those sort of interests and motivational states correspond to their actual behaviors? And now that type of information can't be easily generated internally by Kroger, but companies like Axiom specialize in aggregating emerging consumer data from a variety of external numerous sources. So now we're taking internal secondary data that's been integrated, those are the green arrows, and now we're also taking an external secondary data source, Axiom, and Axiom grabs information about individual consumers from numerous public and private sources. So census data, survey data, links it all together, repackages this data in a easy to link format to marketers' databases, and sells that information as a product. So this idea of data aggregators actually rebundling your information and selling that data as a product to other marketers is not a new idea, but it's definitely been gaining more traction and interest in today's world. One example here, Axiom being one of the more common examples, there was an interesting article by NPR where we found that when individuals were searching for health information on websites, a lot of this information that was being searched, particular keywords, were actually being tracked by these types of data brokers like the Axioms of the world. So in other words, if this company knows who you are through cookie tracking, and now they know what you're searching for, they have an ability to generate some estimate of your medical history or a idea of your medical history based on what you're searching. Now, if you'd like to know what kind of information is being tracked and what sort of insights are being estimated about you, in this particular case, Axiom provides a service called aboutthedata.com where you can log in and sign in and create access to your account and see the types of insights that Axiom actually believes to be true about you. And to give you just an example of this, I created my aboutthedata.com and I logged in to see what do they think is true about me. They do know that I'm a male. They know I've completed college. They think I'm single. That's not true. I'm happily married. They think that I have a child. That's entirely not true. Maybe they just get confused with the fact that I still think Legos are pretty neat. And maybe they make an estimate that I must have a child, or the fact that my wife enjoys buying toys for our little nephew. In addition, they estimate that my occupation is craftsman blue collar, but in reality, I have a cushy white collar academic job. So here it's clear that while companies like Axiom are very successful and popular pulling information from numerous different sources, in many cases they ultimately are making an estimate based on some internal algorithm about what's actually true about a given individual. And we see through my own personal example here that sometimes these individual estimates are not always as precise as sometimes we fear them to be as consumers.